Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dreamweavers podcast.
Woo!
Hello.
Hi,
Hi
and to
guys.
Hi.
and today we have the beautiful Claire with us. Claire, welcome. We're so grateful to have you here today. How you doing, friend?
I'm absolutely fine. Thank you very much, Roni. Very, very honoured to be asked to come on the show. So here I am, guys.
Oh, we're so glad to have you from all the way across the world, or something. My geography is not great, but you're coming to us from the
The
UK,
UK.
right?
UK. I am. Yeah,
Amazing.
it's very sunny. Oh, the sun's just come out in the UK. It's been a very, very sunny but like sort of unpredictable day in the UK. And the sun, well, we did have sun yesterday, then it started raining because the UK is famed for being, having rain. And
Yeah.
now it's come out all sunny again. So it is also Bank Holiday Monday here in the UK as well. So I do believe it's your Memorial Day as well. So happy
Yep.
Memorial.
Thank you
Thank
for
Um,
you.
reminding us. That's
Yes.
exactly what I was going to say. Thank you.
Yes.
Happy Memorial Day, everyone.
And thank you to everyone who served and who has gotten us through so many times and trials and for everything that they've done in the name of freedom and
Freedom.
democracy in America. Yes. So thank you to all of our veterans and all those who have served and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for us.
Yeah,
So,
thank you. I think a lot of
yes,
times
thank
we do
you.
forget that. Well done, Deanna.
right,
Thank you.
right,
Thank you.
right.
All right, Miss Claire, let's dive in and let's talk about you, beautiful human. So,
Right. Well,
where would
I'm
you like
Claire.
to begin? What would you like to tell it? Well, let's start here. What do you do actually? Let's start
Well,
there.
I
What is it
am
that you do?
actually. Yeah, I am a hypnotherapist and psychotherapist and energy healer, and I'm also a psychic medium as well. So evidently, I have had many, many years of counselling training. And yeah, so evidently as well, I like sort of got into doing readings and going through like the spiritualist churches and that when I was younger. And I've trained as like a Reiki healer and done like different energy modalities. And yeah, so at the minute, I've like sort of done like a lot to do with hypnotherapy and psychotherapy. And then as you know, I got told about like SCHH, so I'm just doing all that at the minute as well. But also before that, I ended up meeting a lovely, lovely gentleman who trained me in Akashic record clearing as well. And I'm finding that the two modalities do tend to like sort of complement each other as well. So evidently, that's me, so
So,
so yeah,
I just caught what you said. You went to spiritualism, you were into spiritualism in the spiritualist churches in the
yeah,
UK
yeah, I
also.
did. I
Love
did,
that.
yeah. And evidently I got into all that with the spiritualist churches, and I got a lot of me training with the mediumship through the churches and also through home circles as well. But
Mm-hmm.
evidently, even though I can honestly say I've gotten some fabulous train with the churches, I did go back into like sort of home circles as well. And then, just through the course of like life, because life does happen, I ended up doing some counseling training and psychotherapy training as well. And that led me on to hypnotherapy. So it's just been a very, very gradual process, which has happened over many, many years. Um, and then evidently I've got into energy healing in like a big way, because I was like looking at people and I thought, well, there's things there that weren't really like sort of getting to the core element of why people weren't healing. So I've just had this incredible thirst for knowledge and wanted to know like why people weren't healing. Um, and then evidently, I found out about entities and entity release and spirit release, and then it's just like sort of went from there. But yes, I got into the past life regression because I went to see someone about 9, 10 years ago, and I got regressed. And the information that I got just absolutely blew me away, and it made complete sense of why I was having so many problems in my current life, you know. And I had tried everything, literally. I had been through the whole, like, sort of my own healing journey as well, but it just wasn't really getting to the root cause of why I was having all this, like, sort of things happening to me on a personal level. And I thought, well, what's going on? What is the common denominator? So that was basically, I came from an entertainment background originally, and then evidently, I had what I call a spiritual, people might have said a breakdown, but I call it my spiritual breakthrough, where Archangel Michael literally said that I was going to be helping a lot of people, and that I was going to be healing people. And it just, like, sort of went from there. So it's just been a lifelong quest, to, like, sort of gain more knowledge. So here I am.
Wow,
Wow.
that's a lot.
Yeah,
That
it has
sounds
been
like
quite a journey. It's been a real
How long
journey,
have you
but
been on this journey, actually?
do you know what? I had me awakening right the way back in 2002.
Okay, so
So
that's
it's
why you've been
literally,
going for a while.
yeah, and I've tried
Mhm.
everything. I had to actually have my own healing. I was introduced to flower essences. I was introduced to Reiki. And I was just like, literally, people were saying, but you're on this quest, for healing. And I was like, well, no, I'm just curious because I've had so much of my own personal stuff, which, as you know, Roni, a lot of healers do. You know, none of us have had it easy. We've all had to go through all the nonsense, and we've all had to have our own personal um, trauma as well, haven't we? And I just got fascinated. I just thought, what is the common denominator? So I tried one thing, and yeah, don't get me wrong, it was very, very good, but it still wasn't hitting the root cause. And then also along that journey, I met healers who said, evidently, they were going on. I mean, I did have some earthbounds taken from me, but again, I was still getting the same problem. And I thought, what is it? And that's just basically how my curiosity grew about, like, healing modalities. And I just was determined to get to the root cause. I mean, one thing I've learned, there's no right or wrong way. I truly believe that we get what we need at the time. I
And when we
truly
need it,
believe that
and
when
when
we
we need
need
it.
it. Yeah,
I was
when
gonna
we
say
need it.
that is so interesting, Claire, because it's very interesting to me because I feel like you and I are kind of on that same track. Like that's how I got here, was I was on my own personal journey of healing. I don't know about you, Deanna,
oh
but
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I just kept going and going and trying to find those root causes because this was good, but it's not enough. This was good, but I still got. So what did you discover when you were getting to those root causes?
Yeah, a lot of it, whatever works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. I tried mainstream counseling, and
Hmm.
even though it's very, very therapeutic to talk to somebody, right? And it does help to get things off your chest and also to understand, there was something there, right, that just wasn't hitting home for me. I thought, this is not getting to the root cause of why these things are happening. What is happening? And that's just basically, it piqued me curiosity. Um, and I literally, back in 2002, my lifestyle was completely different. completely different. I was a completely different person to what I am now. I was a heavy smoker. I was a heavy
Mhm.
drinker. I was a party girl. You know, I mean, this probably isn't any different to anybody else's story because I think we all have had to go through that in order to think, well, hang on, right? There's more to this journey than just doing what I'm doing. And I realise now that it was just literally a mask for what was going on within me, my own self. And, at times I had to face my own shadow, which wasn't pleasant. But I had to like really look at myself and think, well, after a catalogue of disastrous relationships, evidently I've been through the relationships with narcissistic men. What is it about me that's attracting these men towards me in the first place? And I couldn't understand I was like a dog with a bone. I thought, what's going on here? Um, so evidently that's why I did go through, I did try flower essences, and don't get me wrong, flower essences are fantastic, but evidently also when you start your own healing journey, I've discovered that there's no right or wrong way to heal because we're all on our own individual journeys. There's no right or wrong way how to face our shadows because again, we are all on our own individual journeys. And this is
I
just
agree.
something that I've had to accept, and it was round about that time that my psychic abilities just went right the way through the roof. And then I started going to spiritualist churches, and then I started to develop with the psychic side of things. And then evidently I started getting very, very disillusioned with those types of communities because they do tend to attract people who, I've discovered that might be psychically developed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're spiritually developed. And evidently, I got very disillusioned with it. And then I had to go away and then I had to do more of my own healing. So evidently, it's just been very much a journey of self-discovery, but one journey that I can honestly say there's no real answer to because we're all on a different journey. So what might works for one person and they might get absolutely fantastic results out of it, and that modality might be absolutely great, doesn't necessarily work for somebody else.
Right.
So evidently it's been tried and tested and um yeah, it's been very, very, I mean, shamanism, absolutely fantastic. I love shamanism. I think it's brilliant, you know. But there is every modality has its own limits. And the thing is, every modality, I'm also finding that my own personal healing, um, what I needed at that time was what I needed at that particular time. So it might have been like sort of shamanic extraction medicine, but then again, further on down the line, it might have just been a past life regression. There's no right or wrong way, guys. It's just whatever comes up at that particular time for that particular individual at that time. So, yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I can honestly say, looking back now, I've been on this journey for so long that, we're all in it together. There's no right or wrong way.
I
I have
love that.
Deanna, where
Yeah.
do we go from there?
Oh my God. I just have to say that you're
Yeah.
so eloquently expressing something that so many people struggle with, that they think, well, I need to get some personal healing, so I'm going to go to this because somebody I know went there, and if it doesn't work, then the person that's trying is at risk of just saying, well, forget it, I guess I'm unfixable, rather than realizing what you said, that there's no one right way. We're all on a journey, and we're all going to an outcome, but the way we get there is all individual. So I love the way you say that, and how important it is to not give up. Just try something different. See what resonates with you. You know, I do healings and some people love it and some people are like, that was great, thanks, and I don't see them again. Totally cool. You know, it's
Yeah.
what works for you is the basis.
Feel that it's kind of like a hairstylist. You
Yeah,
have to find the
absolutely.
right fit.
Yep. Yep.
You
I've
have
got a
to find
wonderful
the right fit.
hairstylist, ladies. I finally found him. He's French and he's called Fred. And he's lived in Northumberland for many years. And believe it or not, he's forgotten all his French. So when he goes back home, I says, well, how, he says, oh, but believe it or not, I might be French, but I forget, because he's too used to speaking English. It's mad. How can a Frenchman forget French?
Oh,
But you know what? Getting back, right? We can never really forget who we really truly are from a spiritual perspective. So he's a Frenchman who's forgotten he's French because he's been too used to speaking English in an English speaking country.
That's a
and
So
great
how's
that's
it?
interesting.
allegory.
Yeah, yeah. So, but then again, looking at that from a spiritual perspective, do we really forget who we really truly are? Because I mean, I think a lot of us have just somewhere along the line just forgotten who we truly are. And
Hmm.
that is that we are spiritual beings having this
A human.
wonderful, sometimes wonderful human experience, but not, so we get the trips and the trails along the way. But, for me, it's been very much realizing how much I've needed to unplug from the matrix. Once you unplug from the matrix, you can't really plug yourself back into it, can you? You know?
And when
So,
you do, it's really hard. And it also has a tendency to do one of two things in my experience. I'm going to talk from just my personal experience. Inside the matrix, if you go back in, it'll do one of two things. It either sucks you kind of all the way back in and you get caught back up in it, or two, everything goes chaotic and you get kicked out. That's just for me and my experience. That's what I've, trust me, that's been
no,
my
I'm
experience.
quite happy not being in this matrix. Thank you very much. I'm quite happy being, like stepping right out of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But sometimes people try re-entering for whatever reason that might be, right? And so if you have stepped out of the matrix and you can see the things that we're sitting here talking about, right? And you try to, I'm gonna say for me, when I did and I tried to re-enter the matrix, okay, I got I got chewed up and spat out. They were like, no, or you're just kind of sucked in, and I was
the
like,
thing is, yeah, the thing is, once you
you can't,
see,
you're not there, you're just not
you,
there anymore, and you can't do it. And it's
yeah,
exactly what you said because you can't do it anymore. You're
yeah,
looking at it and you're like, this isn't right. This is not true. This is everything's, yeah,
once you see, Roni, you can't unsee. That's the thing.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. And once we know that we're living, it's like yeah, the likes of David Icke, when he was going on about the simulation theory, and people they've mocked him for years. But it's never stopped him. Yeah, he's always kept going because he like us, he's a truth seeker,
And
and
I'm sorry, who was that again?
David Icke,
Okay. Do you know who David
I
Icke is?
David
Tiana?
Icke is
I actually don't know who that is. Who is David Icke?
David Icke, he's banned from about 30 countries.
Oh, I
Oh,
like
we
him.
gotta go there. Come on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he's banned from about 30 countries. He's wrote a series of books about the Matrix, about the simulation theory. Basically, what it is, he was actually a TV presenter and he went to see a British psychic called Betty Shane. And that is when he got his own awakening. And then he went on a TV program in the UK called, I think it was Wogan, right? And anyway, right, you know what mainstream media are like, they twist everything, and they were mocking him on live TV, saying, well, you said that you were the son of God, and and everybody in the audience started laughing at him. And you know what? He just sat there and he just said, oh, well, it's nice to see that I've had such a reaction with the audience. And he's evidently he was just laughed at back then, and this was back in the 90s. And then everything that he said, he's a very, very well known, like what you call conspiracy theorist, and evidently everything that he has said from that point has come true. And
Wow.
now he's packing out stadiums, and he's, because of the fact that he's spoken about about the pandemic, and that he's spoken out about 11/11, what was really going on. They've banned him from about 30 countries.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Wow.
you know what? It's never stopped him. He's been mocked. He's been called some absolutely horrendous names, right? But you know what? He's kept on going. And I do believe that he had his own YouTube channel that got taken down. He's actually had to go out and self-publish his books, because evidently, the publishing houses wouldn't take it on.
That's surprising because there's even some, sorry, apologies. Go ahead.
No, and yeah, but he's very, very well known in Britain, and I do believe that he does come over to the States, or he has done in the past quite often. But he's just, yeah, I love him. I love listening to him. I love listening to what he said in the 90s about what was really going on, like now, right? But well, you know
Wow.
what's going on now. I mean, he predicted 11/11. He's spoken out about a lot of things, and at the time, people said, oh, he's a, he's not right in the head. And they've said some horrible things about him, but it's never stopped him. He's kept going, and now people are finally starting to listen to him. Which they
Well,
do.
that's because way back in the 90s, we weren't ready for any of this, and now we are. It's like the shift is here. And it's a whole nother time frame than what it was in the 90s. So I get it, but kudos to him for persevering.
Yeah, you've
Wow,
got to
that's
take your hat off
amazing.
to him. Yeah, you've got to
Yeah,
take your hat off to him. But I mean, he's packed
exactly.
stadiums out,
That's so
Yeah.
and
great. Are you Googling him, Deanna, by
I
chance?
am. He's got
I
some really interesting theories about like the universe and the Anunnaki. There is some less positive things about him that I won't say because I don't know how true it is, but I can see why there might be like a little bit of a love and hate thing. So I'm not gonna claim to support him either way until I know more about some of the less positive things that um not speaking spiritual stuff, just other things that he has said, but he certainly has put out a lot about the universe and the Anunnaki and the hybrids. From what I'm seeing, there is a lot, but I mean, there's some other stuff he did too that, if this is true, I won't agree with. But it looks like he has really basically as being an illustration of somebody who finds the path that they are convinced of the truth and remains on it steadfastly.
it's
Um,
gotta love some conviction.
yes,
yeah,
in a spiritual way, but like I said, I'm withholding judgment on him, but I like some of the stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna look him up later. So thank you for that, Claire.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank
I
you.
mean,
Yeah.
he's spoken out about the British royal family.
Ooh, I
And
didn't
one
see
thing he
that.
was
Okay.
mocked about was that he said that Queen Elizabeth II was a reptilian,
Oh dear.
and that the British family were shape-shifting lizards. So evidently, I mean, he's been totally like sort of laughed out of town about that. And
I'm sure.
Well,
And
if you're
also,
taking, yeah, he's taking a beloved figure and changing the narrative. So I can see why people would have,
Yeah.
but I mean, I talk to intergalactic beings, so that's
so
my
yeah,
truth.
so let's face it. I mean, we live in a pretty crazy, messed up world anyway, so it always helps to be a little bit crazy, doesn't it, Deanna?
A
That's
little
my
bit never
philosophy.
hurts. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, what I think anybody that deviates away from the norm, like psychic mediums, they always get a bad press. I mean, I've been called some absolutely horrendous names, yeah. But the thing is, I mean, we do this as well as part of the traits of being a genuine psychic medium is that we're empathic and we're able to feel very deeply. So evidently, when somebody calls you nasty names, right, it does hurt. I
Hmm.
mean, I know it's only words, but but then again, people can only affect you the way that you allow them to. So you do, to a certain extent, have to develop a very thick skin. But you know what? When people do attack me in that sense, I say that it's coming from a place of fear and it's coming from a place of ego. It's not nothing anything like sort of
It's not
uh,
personal.
personal to me. No, so evidently it's looking at it in all different layers. We're sensitive, and that's one of the gifts that we have in order to do what we do. But at the same time, we have to keep a thick skin wall to people who are skeptical and who are not awake. And not everybody is meant to awaken on this journey, and that's fine. But
Right.
again, there is a lot of psychic, so-called psychic mediums out there who are not genuine, right? And who are in it for what they can get out of it as well. So yeah, it's about looking at it from all perspectives. But the genuine ones, literally, like yourself, and you get so much grief for having a gift, you know.
Hmm.
And the thing is, I'm here to help. I'm here to help the masses. I do know that. I know that my path is the light, but at the same time, the path to the light has also been paved with a lot of darkness along the way as well. But we've got to go through the dark in order to appreciate the light, haven't we?
I say that all the time. You are completely echoing my thoughts on that. And I will say, as a member of the spiritualist community here, um, I resonate with what you said about, I mean, I think people start out to do good. I really do. I think people start out to do good, but
I agree.
ego and pride and
Fear.
showmanship, things get in the way of that. And so maybe we're all starting out to work with the light, but then sometimes people take side trips away from it and lose track of the ultimate goal. Excuse me. And so I think you're right when you say that, there's genuine people out there genuinely trying to make a difference. And then there's people that meant to, but maybe lost their way and don't see the light quite as much. And spiritualism is one of the places where that's easy to illustrate how that happens and where that happens.
I can see that.
I go to Lilydale, which I don't know if you've heard of, but it's one of the main spiritualist camps here, up in the
Yeah.
Northeast of America. And you can feel the difference when you're surrounded by people that are all shining, that are all in the light. And then it makes it, you can see the ones that aren't a lot clearer. And for me as a healer, that's who I want to help is let's bring your light back. Let's help you find where you were meaning to go. Let's see if we can shine that for you again. Because I think, like you said, you're here on a path of healing to help people. And I am too. And there are so many of us that have awoken to that in the last 30 years to really work to help the others that are still working on awakening or trying to awake or have awakened and haven't found the path to the light. I mean, I think we're all just kind of bringing each other home in a way of speaking. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, yeah. But the thing
Interesting.
is, especially since what's happened, a lot of people, Deanna, have woken up in the last 5 to 6 years,
Hmm.
especially COVID had to happen. That was literally the
Yeah.
Great Awakening. It did have to happen. Yeah.
I
Because
happen to agree with you. That's so interesting that you say the Great Awakening because I sometimes will refer to as the pandemic, the 2020 pandemic as the Great Awakening. Like, yeah, thank you.
and it was a 4 year. I mean, if you notice something as well, in the UK, we went into lockdown, I think it was March the 18th of 2020. And you know something, I remember waking up on the first day of lockdown, Roni, and the birds were still singing in the trees, but there was an eerie silence. And you know what, right? If you look at what was happening around the world at that time, there was such a community spirit. In Italy, everybody was on the balconies and they were coming out and they were supporting each other. You know, I do believe that the animals were coming into the cities, and
Hmm.
also in Rome, in India, the Taj Mahal and all the rest of it, all the smoke and everything, because it was all polluted, was all clearing up. And even in Venice, there was even dolphins spotted in the canals, and they hadn't been spotted for over 30, 40 years. So what Mother I was saying to people is Mother Earth was having a very, very much needed reset. It was a unique opportunity, because how often we're all guilty, we're going to work 40, maybe 50 hours a week, and we're maybe getting 3 weeks vacation off a year, right? How often do we really get that opportunity to step back and really look at ourselves? Even on readings, I was like getting people saying, do you know what, Claire? I've been doing this job for the last 20 years and I'm no longer getting any satisfaction out of it. And you know what made me realize that? When I was stuck at home with me husband and me 4 kids, right, in this house, we're together all the time. And it made me realize I just don't want to do this anymore, because
Mm-hmm.
I had stepped back. And how often do we, this has never happened anywhere across history. We've had diseases all the way throughout, right? We know we survived the Spanish influenza, back in, the early 20th century. We've
Mm-hmm.
survived AIDS. But the
Black
thing
plague.
is, the
Hmm.
world never come to a standstill, right, until 2020. And the thing is, that is when we really had to step back and we really had to look at what was going on, and we had to look at the bigger picture.
I think that is a way I
I
hadn't looked at it before, and I appreciate that because that makes so much sense. I was considered essential, so I didn't really lock down. I kept going to work, but I can appreciate what you were saying about the silence, about the animals, because it was different leaving
Mhm.
the house in the morning and going into my job. It wasn't the same. I mean,
No,
there
it
was,
wasn't. And
it was
even
a,
going into the shops,
yep.
there was the masks, the social distancing, but
Mm-hmm.
people were like looking at each other as if they were lepers. Oh, keep away.
Yep. Yep.
But you know what? It was just, yeah, I always remember there was a real community spirit, something which we have never ever experienced before. Neighbors looking out for each other, making sure you were all right. Um, yeah, and also, even though like the shops were closed, and like to a certain degree, there was just all this silence, and I was thinking, well, what is going on? We're having a massive reset of absolutely everything, and it's making us realize what is more important? It's not our jobs, right? It's about our families, and it made us realize what was more important. If you haven't got, right, that well-being within yourself, you haven't got anything, have you? Right? So looking
Yeah.
at it from that perspective, even though there's been other things that have come out since about the actual, pandemic or whatever you want to label it, but it was a real, like, sort of spiritual sort of like wake up call, right? And a lot of people during that time woke up and remembered who they really were. It's not about, Alice Gibbons, who's married to Tony Gibbons and who's got 4 kids and who goes to work, like in an office for 5 days. That is what we do, but that isn't who
It's
we are.
not who we are.
Absolutely. And it changed the workplace considerably. I mean, there's a lot of positions now that are permanently now working from home versus, going
Hmm.
my position is now completely remote working from home. And the change in people's mental health for not having the same all the time, at least for a lot of people, the grind of, get up
Getting
before it's light, get everything done, get out, get home, have 3 hours to basically have your life before you go to bed and start that all over again. That still happens. I'm not saying it's not there, but it's shifted. And I think following along with what you're saying, Claire, it's like now we have to remember to maintain that balance in the new way versus shifting back. And I think yeah, it's almost as if I think that there's two different energies going on right now, where moving into the new, which is part of the ascension and what's happening, and those who are trying to dial it back and bring it back into what it was. And we're seeing those different expressions of those different energies in big ways and smaller ways.
Yeah.
We're seeing that, oh, maybe some corporations are forcing people to go back to work who haven't been working in an office for the last 5 years. Or maybe there's larger things going on where it's instead of moving forward as the natural state would be, maybe people are trying to say, well, let's come back to older ways. Let's get things the way that they used to be. And I think that maybe that right there is the balancing point of the ascension. Like everything you're saying is just making me see that we're still on a balance. Mother Nature did the reset, right? and
Hmm.
and that I'm not downplaying the deaths. Absolutely not downplaying the deaths and the loss and a lot of it. I mean, I'm not downplaying that. There was a lot of unnecessary loss. There was a lot of loss that
Oh,
didn't
absolutely. I mean,
take
but
right.
yourself, I mean, a lot of businesses, closed down and people were, furl off from work. Um, and yeah, I get that. Of course we do. We're living in this 3D reality. We all need money to survive. Of
Right.
course we do. We've all got the mortgage and the bills and the 6.5, like sort of, the mortgage and all the rest
Hmm.
of it. But the thing is, it was giving us a very much needed, like sort of wake up call. And it's just, and basically remembering who we are. It's not about what we do, it's who we really truly are, right?
Right.
And a lot of people are like sort of thinking, right, I've been doing all this stuff and it's really not who I am anymore. And I want to be following my purpose, and I want to be, and if you find that during that time there was a lot of people that actually went out and retrained, and I believe one lady, she said to me that she converted a caravan, and she like sort of made it into a little mini home so she could go around like traveling. Um, and some of the stories I've heard about what people did in lockdown or for all those weeks and months, it was just mind blowing. It
Hmm.
really, really was. But it was giving us that perfect opportunity in order to reassess our lives.
For
and
the
where
ones who
what was
did,
working. Yeah.
yeah, for the ones who did
Yep. I
reassess,
mean,
I
yeah,
think there
I'm
were
sorry.
some people who didn't.
Well,
Oh yeah,
And
there was. There
there's
was a
that.
lot of
But
people
we're going
who
to stay
just thought,
focused on the ones who did. And I think it's so interesting because I was one of those so it's so interesting that you brought up or that we're talking about the pandemic and the shifts that happened. So here's where I'm going to tell a little bit of my story when I was talking. I'm going to connect some dots here. Before the pandemic, um, if you go before the pandemic, about 8 years prior to that, that's when I started so what would that have been? What is that? I don't know, Deanna, I don't do math. 8 years
I
before
don't do math.
2020. Um, so 8 years before that is when I started my big spiritual awakening.
Oh, 2012. That was an important year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started my really big spiritual awakening. I had had snippets up until then, and I just wasn't sure if how to deal with it. I didn't know yet. I wasn't sure, so I just kind of kept putting it on the back burner because I didn't know. But 2012 is when I started. And I was doing really great and I was doing all the things. Fast forward to 2020. Okay, I'm sorry, let me go back. So if that was 2012 when I started, so 2017, I started plugging back into the matrix. I had a job. I was a high school teacher at the time. I was a high school teacher. And what happened was I wasn't maintaining all the things that I should have been doing. Like I wasn't meditating for an hour a day anymore. I was meditating maybe for 20 or 30 minutes at a time. I would only make time for my spirituality as it started fitting into my life. I started prioritizing other things. That's how I got plugged back into the matrix, is because I was the one who did not prioritize my spirituality anymore. So 3 years into 2020 happened. So that was by 2017 to 2020. So for those 3 years, I was starting to plug back into the matrix again because I wasn't prioritizing myself or my spirituality. And when that happened, 2020 happened. Hey girl, now you got the time. Stop. And that's when I reawakened again. If that, I'm not sure that I want to say reawakened. That's when I was knocked upside the head and was like, okay, now's your time. Here you go. Ah, yeah, okay. And here we are.
And
So fast forward, I've stayed on my spiritual track. Well, that's not true because I did try getting off my I accidentally got off my spiritual track again 2 years ago. And this past year has been not very, it's like it chews you up and spits you out. You have to stay focused on yourself and you have to stay focused on your spirituality. It doesn't go well when you don't. And that's just my experience and how I got here. So I'm just saying, yeah, 2020 was my reset as well. Honestly, it was.
well, can
Like,
I say 2020
yeah,
is the year that um um myself and a very close group of people were um let go from a spiritualist church that we had been
Mhm.
the board members of and started our own that same year, right as lockdown was starting. And so it was particularly a spiritual thing
I'm
um,
sure.
in mind. I mean, yes, I was working and I was doing all that stuff, but we started what is now a thriving spiritualist church with different values than the ones that we had learned up to that point when it came to spiritualism, which we have had our friend of the show, Stephen, has been on before to talk to us about that, and will be on again to give us more information about it. But it does kind of, this conversation is connecting some dots for me in terms of, it wasn't just work for me, and I was already working on my spiritual development, but it amped it up a lot when we actually developed a church, like a church. So, yeah, and this is yeah, Claire, you've just really given me a lot of, you've connected a lot of dots for me as well in this conversation about that. So I hadn't really thought of it that way. I mean, there are still people who are sick and dying from COVID, and there are still mutations of it, and there's more to come. I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's not as bad as it was the first time, but that doesn't mean it's not bad still. Um, and I think that as we progress in our spiritual development, as we learn that we are, as you said, not what we do, but who we are, um, that will we will just continue to illuminate, and we will continue to um, move forward and move into that new way of living versus the older way, which is what the the virus basically split. Um, so yeah, I mean, putting a positive putting a positive definition into what was probably one of the more tragic events of the earth, but yet was so unifying, really helps bring some focus and some understanding to the troubles that we as a humanity collective have gone through. You know, there are other very tragic things that have happened in the world that maybe didn't unite the way that I think COVID did. Now, not having lived through those, I can't say that as a fact. And I'm certainly, again, not downplaying death, loss, or anything horrible that has happened, because horrible things have happened. But I think that as what you've described is really being able to pull the light out of the darkness, which is our job as healers anyways. So Claire, thank you for this topic coming up, and what you've said has really been thought-provoking. You can tell because I'm actually talking slow and not talking really fast. Um, but yeah, this is very thought-provoking for me, and appreciated to be able to see some light into what was one of our darker times as a collective.
Hmm. I knew that COVID, the pandemic, really did wonders for me.
Hmm.
Interestingly
Yeah,
enough,
I
it really
mean,
did. It did wonders for me.
I've spoken to a lot of people who actually went through that time, and like I said, it was some of the stories that have come back, what they've done, and I've been like, wow. But then again, it was a unique opportunity,
Was it?
and people were separated from their families, and it made them realize that, hang on a minute, what's more important? I really do believe that. What is more important? Take away the status of being, this top executive in this firm who are making millions of dollars a year. And we're just people. We're just people. And we need that. Yeah, it was a call to remember, right? And that's what I felt personally, what it was for a lot of
It's
people.
so
And
interesting because I thought so too. I was like, this is your remembrance knocking, is how I say it. Your remembrance is knocking. Do you want to open the door or not?
yeah,
It's your
I mean, a lot
choice.
of people, there was a lot of people that, didn't, obviously. They just thought, oh
Yeah.
God, I'm
Oh, and
just going
that's
to
their
drink.
that's their path.
Yeah, that's their journey. I'm just going to drink like sort of 20 crates of beer, and I'm just going to sit and watch and play games, and just hope that all this rubbish just, tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and I can just go back to the pub and be with be with me booze mates again. I do know there was a lot of people that just saw it as oh, isn't this boring? I'm off work. What else can I do? I'm absolutely bored stiff. Well, get your shoes on, get yourself out into nature.
Mm.
Turn the TV off. For God's sake, just get out there. But not everybody did do it, Roni. You know, I mean, a lot of people did, and I agree with you. There was a lot of people that just thought, "Oh, this is a bit boring," you know. We've got all this going on, and we've been told that we've got to stay home, and we can't do this, and we can't do that, and we've just got to, you know, like vegetate, you know, in our homes, and just hope that tomorrow is going to be better. Yeah,
Or the
yeah,
ones that there was denial. There were people without who would refuse to wear masks and stuff like that. I mean, there was a lot of that going on. Or a lot of
Uh,
people who were taking it as a retribution from God, and taking the time that and just living in a bleaker mindset. I think I guess I don't know. There's so much to unpack still. I think about that time in our history, um, and just so many different ways of experiencing it, and ramifications that are still ongoing. And
yeah,
you know, the losses for me um were one of the more difficult things, because that at the time there and there still is perception that I still see as a lot of unnecessary losses, but unnecessary due to ignorance or misunderstanding, or you know, just the rampant spread. I mean, all these different things, but um, I think that as much as we want to spread the light and we want to pull something positive out of it, the balance of that is making sure that we're not like going into almost a Pollyanna kind of a way of looking at it, and not forgetting that, you know, there was some bad stuff too. So I'm literally right now just thinking out loud. So anyone listening, this is just me thinking. I'm not making any political comment about this or anything like that, but just
mhm,
there's so much that we can pull out of the whole last 5 years of it. And the fact that, I mean, it's still there. It's not gone. It's tamed or controlled a little bit, or mutated out of what it was, you know, to be scientific. But it's still there. And that tells us as light workers and as healers that we don't stop shining the light. We keep going with it. And I think you alluded, Claire, to something like we don't know where the outcome's going to be. We don't know where the actual end is. We're just continuing to go, because ultimately that's what we're called to do in today's world.
mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
All
We've
right.
just got to follow our own journeys, haven't we? You know,
Yes.
Absolutely.
and you know that you know we're all on this earth for a reason,
Mm,
and we're here to learn, we're here to grow, and we're all here to do our own individual tasks as well. And some people will awaken, some people won't, and that's just how it is, you know.
Mhm.
Um, not you know, and realizing that it's not always our job to awaken people, and you can't awake people who are quite happy to still be asleep.
mhm.
Beautifully
Absolutely.
said. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Miss Claire, do you have anything from the universe that you want to share as our parting thoughts for the day?
Heart and thought for the day. Remember who you really are, ladies,
Mm,
and keep shining that light.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Claire, would you be willing to come back on again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my
You
gosh,
just
thank you.
tell me when you want me
Yeah.
to come back on and we can sort something out. Absolutely. It's been absolutely wonderful, ladies. I've loved
I
to
a
have
100%
this
Yeah.
agree.
time to
I
be
can't,
able to converse with you, two beautiful souls.
yeah, I
Oh,
can't, I'm so excited. I look forward to having you on again. And let's, next time we get on, I want to talk a little bit, take it in a little bit different direction, but that's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. You have so many gifts. How can people find you, baby?
Right, okay. If anybody wants to get in contact with me, my website is www newhorizonsbyclaire.co.uk. That is my website.
Alrighty, and we will
Excellent.
have a link to that in the
Yeah,
in the show notes, as Deanna says.
Yes.
I like
yeah,
your, I know
absolutely.
that's not really the correct term, and that's okay, but we will have a link below.
Yes.
No
Yes,
problem.
Yes.
no
Okay.
So
problem. It's been lovely talking to you, you
And
lovely ladies.
and remind everybody, so on your website, you have all these amazing, beautiful things that you
Yeah,
have to
like I
offer
said,
for any type of help that people may need. Is that
mm,
what I understand?
absolutely. Whatever
Yes.
you're drawn to, I can also do personal packages as well. Whatever people, I
Ooh, a
tailor it to the
personal pack.
clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
do.
know,
I
I
tailor
think
it to the
that's,
client because, I mean, it might be a case of a lady comes to you for, she wants to have like, hypnotherapy for confidence. But then, it may be a case of that confidence is stemming from a past life issue. So evidently it's not realistically, it might not take more like one session, it might take a good couple of sessions. So that's where I've got to get my thinking cap on and think as a therapist, well, what is it that this lady really needs?
mhm.
Yeah,
mhm.
so evidently I do have my packages there. And yeah, so evidently, and also as well, I do have my TikTok channel up and running as well. So if people want
Ooh,
to find me, I'm on TikTok 5 nights a week on weeknights. So I will be up on there, Claire Louise Wallace too. So if anybody
Claire
wants to come on,
Louise Wallace
Wallace
2, the
too.
number 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, number two, as in the number two. So if anybody wants to come on and just give a shout out, I am on there 5 nights a week, coming to a living room
Wow.
near you.
Excellent.
Aw. I will
Wonderful.
see you on there one day. I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
hey,
Well,
I
yeah,
want to
Yeah.
get
come
on
on.
there.
Yeah, hit me up, Roni. Give me a hi.
Wow.
So
Five
I'll be
nights
on
a
there.
week?
Yeah, doing mini readings. Yeah, me channel's up there. I'm on for an hour every night or during the week. So I will be on, guys. So if you're around, if you're awake, 'cause I do know you're on EST time, just
Yes.
come on, jump on and say hi.
Aw.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now
I
we
am
are
most certainly going to do that.
we are at the point where we can do some shout outs. Are
Shout
there shout
outs! Miss
outs?
Right. Well,
Claire, do you have any shout outs?
I do. I want to give a huge shout out to the lovely Kim Moore.
Yay.
That's so great because that's one of mine. I was, well, I'll tell her
Yeah.
that. Hello, Kim. We
She
love you,
was the
girl.
one that told me to come on the show, and I said, right, I've got to give her a live shout out. And also, she also comes on religiously to support me on my show. So I do want to give a beautiful shout out to this beautiful lady. So big shout out to Kim Moore.
We're gonna have her on again real soon, actually. I don't know if you know this, but Kim and I are pretty good friends, and so we just
Yeah,
spoke the other day, and she's going to be on here soon again because she's just such a delight. And we're working that out, so we'll
she is. She's
we'll see her
lovely. She's
again.
a lovely lady. So I want to give a huge shout out to Kim.
Thank
And I
you,
want to give another shout out to another beautiful lady, and that is Alyssa Gibson.
Alyssa
So
Gibson. Hi,
Alyssa.
yeah,
Alyssa Gibson.
yeah, okay. So I want to give a massive shout out to her as well, Roni.
Okay,
So they, yes. So them are the
okay,
two people I want to shout out to.
great. Deanna, do you
Yay.
have any, baby?
I have a more generalized shout out. I would like to thank our community of healers. Particularly, I'm thinking of my local community of healers and all of the wonderful people that I am meeting and continue to meet to grow my own network of like souls, but also into the global wider world also for all of us that are walking this path and all of us that are here to serve light, to bring light, and to carry that light as we move forward. So that's my shout out today.
That's
Ah,
beautiful.
that was a good one, Deanna. Can I second that one too?
Sure,
Kind of like I second Kim.
sure.
I'm gonna second that
Yeah.
one too because let me tell you, I have been having some amazing, amazing meetings lately. And yeah, it's so great. It's so good. So I'll second that. Mine is hello, Mr. Chris. My shout out is to
Hi,
Chris.
Chris.
Yeah, he's a good egg. I like him. So hello, friend. And Mr. LP.
LP.
LP. We're leaving it there.
LP, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, alrighty. Anything else? Any parting words, anybody? Nope.
I think we've done a really great job.
I love this,
So
You
Claire.
it's
know
You
been
what?
are
Can I just
wonderful.
amazing.
say, keep being awesome, guys. Keep being you. Keep being awesome, and just keep spreading that light out.
That
That
is the
is
goal.
That's exactly what we're here to do, is just spread it all,
I just want to jump into that sea right there,
share.
Ronnie.
Pardon, say
Well,
that again?
I want to jump into the sea. Look, it's coming up to the tide.
Come on, girl. Come
Come
on,
on,
come
get your
on.
bikini on. We'll go on the we'll go on the palm trees.
So I'm gonna be real honest. This is a fake picture. It's not real. I am indoors, unfortunately. However, I'm looking forward to here soon, having a background that is not an image. But I don't know. I kind of like the images too. They're cool. So anyway,
that's how we
that's
manifest.
yeah. It is what it is. So yeah.
So I will say, as always, to our wonderful, dear watchers, listeners, and however else you're finding us, thank you for being here.
Mm.
Thank you. Remember, comment, share, like, whatever you want to do. We listen, we watch, and we do respond. If you have any questions, any comments, anything you'd like to share, as well as those of you who are watching us, should you wish to be on the podcast as a guest, perhaps you have a gift that you are sharing that you would like to discuss or share with us on a wider audience, reach out, man. We love to bring people on here. We love to talk and we love to learn. So with that, I think we are ready to close. So I will say, as always, be blessed and be blissed, and know that you are always loved. So we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.